Hello and welcome to Let's Program with Santier. I'm Santier, and today we're going to continue working on the task tracker. Now, last time I'd basically finished this, but I realized that there was an option that I could do right here. Specifically in this one where it says icon, instead of having it be empty by default, I think I actually want it to have, was it system.windows.forms.application. Is it executable path? Yeah. So I've used this particular thing somewhere else, and as it says, it gets the path for the executable file that started this application, including the executable name. So the reason why I'm doing that is that will, by default, give the icon of Task Tracker to the standalone browser. And I think that would be a bit nicer. So I want to set up the four controls, I guess, for these. And that's probably what most of today is going to be. There is one more thing that I realized would be really helpful to add, however. So I'm going to add that, I guess, at the end, and maybe this, because I still want this to be the last episode, so maybe this one will be a little bit longer and have a little bit of a longer send-off. But it's just a very simple thing that I realized might be quite useful to have. So there will be a little bit of tidy ups that they'll need to do after the episode. So if there's any sort of major changes, I'll let you know. But if it's just a minor, like there's a one-line bug or something, I'll mention it in the description. So for now, let's go ahead and add our user control for standalone browser with file. And I'm just going to add all of our controls at once. A user control for standalone browser complex, for run program, and last but not least, a user control for run program advanced. Okay, so these are the four things. Right here, you can see them. And we're going to need to add them here. So standalone browser with file, d equals new, standalone browser with file. It's not going to like this, but it will like it when we're done. So we're just going to go through and we're going to make all of these while we're here. So that way, repeat it with me, we don't forget what we're doing. We don't forget stuff. So we need a complex here, because that's what this is. TM, standalone browser complex, module. Run program. No, I need a case for that. And we're just going to get all this stuff finished off so that way we don't forget to add it. Because if we forget to add it, we will be sad. Whoop. New run program advanced. PM run program advanced. Module. There. Now we have all of this set up. Just make sure all the formatting is good in here, because why not? Now, like I said, this thing's not really happy with us, but that's because none of these are set up properly. And so the next task is to set these up properly. So this is standalone browser with file. This one was very simple. Internal. Let's move these next to each other. So let's just do this one first. Standalone browser with file. SBWF, because that is a long name to just like copy. So, by the way, if anybody's been wondering why I've been doing underscore owner instead of owner, it's because I like to make my private stuff have an underscore in front. Is kind of the main reason. Just if you build little conventions like that, like how I always start a control with double underscore, with its name and stuff like that, those sort of conventions, like underscores are a little bit of a pain, yes, but those sort of conventions help make things consistent, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is, if I need a private, it's an underscore, and if I see an underscore in front of something, I know it's a private. If I see double underscore, then I know it's a control, and also I can find all of my controls with double underscore rather than having to try to remember what I named each one individually. Those sorts of conventions can help with things, so it's just something to keep in mind. So this one's with file. So that means that I'm going to want sort of my standard operating procedure. Now, these are actually text files that this thing uses. They're just a simple text file with a few lines of text in them, with sort of the specification of like the name and the icon and the other files and whatnot. So I might as well use an open file dialog here. Browse file dialog, txt, text documents, star.txt. I am going to put in all files here, just in case that's desired. Now, the initial directory I'm going to actually set inside, and that'll make sense in a moment. But we're going to go ahead and select file. Okay. This is going to be our browse button, as would be expected, with our triple dot and all that jazz. You should be pretty familiar with this at this point. It's something that I've been doing a lot. And like I said, I start this with a double underscore because I start anything that I want to access, I start with a double underscore. Because it just makes it substantially easier to find it and locate it. There we go. We'll just set it up like this. So this is just going to go file.text equals browse file dialog dot file name. A lot of very similar code here. Now, the one thing is I want to go dot initial directory equals properties dot settings dot default dot standalone browser working directory. So by setting it to that, this is the location where I'm most likely storing the files. So that will make it easier to find them. That's the idea anyway. And then of course, file is owner.filename and file.text changed. Owner.filename equals file.text. Okay, so that's all that's really going to need. So I can go ahead and close that. So this is, of course, unhappy. So let's just go ahead and do the advanced here. This one's definitely more complicated in terms of, let's see, I'm going to need label, I'm going to need button, I'm going to need text box, need a folder browser dialog, and an open file dialog. You can, once you have this little floaty thingy bar for like stuff that's kind of like there but not a visible thing, you can just drag and drop stuff into it. Okay, so I'm going to name this stuff after I've kind of made my duplicates, but this right here, I'm just going to copy paste, move these down a little bit, and then I'm just going to make another set of these. So let's just start with our labels. Program, working directory, and parameters. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to start with these names first is simply because I needed to get the maximum length, because I want to line all these text boxes up because I believe that to look better. Working directory is by far the longest. There we go. So that means I wanted to make sure I was getting that length accounted for when I was setting these things up. And I'm just going to go ahead and set these into place. Parameter can go like so. And these can go like so. Okay. Now it's time to name things. So this is going to be program, working directory, parameters. Again, I don't know how much I'm going to use this one, but I want it here in case I do want it. It might work a little wonky as well, so I've sometimes had start be very wonky. Which I think is how this is set up. I'm not actually sure. It may not need to be off of start. It might just be able to be a command, now that I think about it. That's something that I'll play around with on my own, though. There's a chance that I want to basically... I'll go over this in a sec. Let me browse program button. Browse working dir button. Browse working dir dialog. And browse program dialog. This one is going to look for exes. Filter executables star.exe. That's all we're looking for. Select executable. Okay. So the thing that I was saying with this is the way that this guy right here works is execute, I believe, is a proxy for start. And this, the problem with start is it's basically, if I were to do something on the command line, it would be, start, /d, working dir. I forget if it's /d or if it's /b or something like that, but it's you can look it up. Working dir, program parameters. And this can sometimes act a little bit wonky, but because I have the fully qualified path, I might just be able to do like something with like program parameters like that. So I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it a whole lot, but just know that I might want to find a way to sort of tweak how this behaves when I start testing it. But that's the sort of thing that I might add in the comments if it requires some sort of substantial change. I don't know that it will, but just know that it might. So again, that's the sort of thing where if I start testing stuff and I'm like, this really might work better if I did it a slightly different way, I might do so, and it might be a little bit more complicated because I might need to add a more complicated set of functionality, because what a lot of those things are doing is they're basically running like this, and I command.c command. So it's the sort of thing where that may not behave or may not allow me to be able to change the working directory. So I don't know. I'm just kind of like giving you sort of the advanced, here's the possible issues sort of rundown, I guess. So program.text equals owner.program parameters.text equals command line parameters working directory.text equals owner.working directory. Text changed. Whoop, that was supposed to be plus equals. And working directory.text changed. Okay, so I'm just going to set this stuff up. Owner.program equals program.text. Owner.command line parameters equal parameters.text. And owner.working directory equals working directory.text. Nothing you wouldn't expect there. So this right here should set program.text equals to the browse program. Oh boy. Browse program dialog.file name. Boy, that was getting lost in a bunch of very similar names, which can happen sometimes. It's something kind of be aware of. Browse program button is this.show dialog. And again, working directories are a little bit more complicated. And while I'm thinking about it, I want to set this from the desktop to my computer, because I feel like my computer is more often what you're going to want that to be, or at least it's what I want it to be anyway. Okay, so finally we need to go if browse working dir button dot show dialog. Wait, no, not button. Wow, that was. Here we go. Browse working dialog dot selected path. Okay, cool. Dot text. Okay, I think that should set everything up with this guy. Run program is basically going to be the same thing, so I'm just going to select these right here. I'm going to come over here, enlarge this, and paste. Right there. Okay. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger just because I don't need to consume as much space. Shrink this down a little bit. So one of the things that you'll note when you copy and paste from control to control like this, all of these names are the same. Is it the right spot? Yeah, I guess it is. And the reason for that's really simple. It's not competing for names because it's in a different thing. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. I don't need that open. This needs to become internal. But it certainly makes it very convenient when you're like going between things. Run program owner tm run program owner equals program.text equals owner.program program.text changed owner.program equals program.text this show dialog and then program.text equals this file name. Okay, that should be all we need there. This is not going to build. This is going to give us errors. Yes, I know that. Okay. But this should be set up. This one is going to be by far more complicated than probably actually any other one of these. So let's just go ahead and start with the inside bit that we know is going to be. I really wish it wouldn't do that, but standalone. I mean, who would have guessed, right? Standalone Browser Complex is complicated. SBC equals SBC. Okay, so the reason why this guy's going to be complicated is largely it's largely because it is trying to do a lot of things. So I'm going to need a group box, let's see. I actually might need to add another subcontrol to this, because this one is definitely one where I'm going to need to be able to add and remove things. So let's just try to power through this quickly. So there's a couple of things I know that I need. I'm going to need a label. Of course, I'm probably going to need a couple of labels. I'm going to need some buttons. I'm going to want a low layout panel, because these things are awesome. URL holder. This is actually going to go top down. Back color, dark. Border style, fixed 3D. Auto size is false. Auto scroll is true. And doc is fill. Okay. And this is just going to read URLs. Okay. So the next step with this is to grab our text box. Okay, so I'm just going to copy these right now. Going to need this is going to read name. This one is going to read icon. You may have already guessed. This needs to come forward slightly. Whoop. No, that is not a thing. Is it this one that I clicked on? Is it this that I clicked on? Yeah, right here. Yes, I know. Delete. There. Get rid of that. Don't need that. Okay, so what I want here is I want name to stretch to there. I want this to stretch to here. I'm going to need a browse button. There's only one browse, so let's throw this guy out to here. This guy out to up there, and this guy out to up here. I'm going to need to add an open file dialog. This is going to be browse for icon dialog. So by default, I'm going to make this icon file star.ico, but I'm also going to add an all files star.star on it. So the reason for that is quite simple. Icons can be embedded in other programs, and you can still embedded in other types of files, and you can still use them. The best example is how I've been setting it equal to this program's executable to be able to grab the icon out of this program. This is something that you can do if you want to, but the caveat there, or the requirement perhaps is a better term, is that you need to be able to select it. So there are icon files, like specific icon files, which are basically like layered PNGs in a way, or like layered bitmaps with transparency, 32-bit bitmaps. Those are absolutely something that exists and you can use. So that's why I'm using that by default, but you can grab whatever you want. So as long as it has an icon in it, you can extract that and use that. So that's why that specifically needs that property. So I'm going to go ahead and make this fairly large. And I'm going to just copy and paste this and make this button here, which is going to be add URL. Add URL button. I'm going to shrink that down to fitting like that. Okay. So this is going to have to do stuff. This is going to have to do stuff. This is going to have to do stuff. So the first thing that I want to do is drink some water. And I need to add a user control. It's pretty straightforward. All this is going to do is this is going to be a URL info. Actually, I'm going to call it an SBC URL, or standalone browser URL. So this right here, I want to make it control light. Actually, do I need this? Ooh, I just got a tingly idea. I don't think I need this. Let's take this and let's delete. Yes, I don't need that. Okay, so I figured out why I don't need it. The really simple answer is I'm going to fill this with text boxes, and if you hit enter on an empty text box, I'm going to make it delete it. That's the I'll add a note down here. Press enter on an empty entry to delete. There. And I'm adding that note. It's a good idea if you're doing invisible controls like this, which is kind of what this is doing, right? There's not an obvious button or anything. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my weird casing, my weird Lovecraftian casing. To delete it. Okay. If you have invisible controls like this, or in the previous program, the timeline tool that I made, you can go back and look at that, and you'll notice that I added in kind of the upper right-hand corner of the timeline overview, where I had a bunch of mouse-based controls. I just added a thing that could display, or that did display, what the controls were. And when you have invisible controls like this that don't have an obvious button or an obvious field or something, it's a really good idea to add some sort of note somewhere that explains what they are, so that way people know how to work your program. Like, if I didn't have this, people might not know how to get rid of something, which would be very frustrating. So, first thing that I want to do is I'm just going to go, let's see. I did not name my text boxes. Now, I know I didn't name them because I couldn't find them in my list of __, which is a thing that I've been talking about for a while now. Okay. So, icon dot text. The text, yes, text equals owner.icon. Name.text equals owner.name. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually make a function, private void add URL string URL. So this could be empty, and that's okay. But the important thing with this is that this is going to set up my text boxes. So I'm not going to do anything with that just yet, but I'm going to go for each string URL in owner.urls. I've been calling it URL for some reason. There's no good reason. You could go URL if you wanted to kind of emphasize the oo aspect that U's can have, but yeah. When I was testing out stuff for the this guy, I actually had a thing that I called Earl of Squirrel because, well, at this point in time, it's still unstable and still fairly still in fairly recent memory for magic sets. So I need to add the URL. Okay. So this is going to add URL, probably empty, but it's also going to owner.urls.add. Just add an empty string as well. Okay, so I need to actually think about how I want to sync this up. Okay, I've thought about it, and I think I figured out how I want to do it. Okay, so I need to also add icon.textChanged and name.textChanged. So this will be the thing that we're all familiar with. Name.text and owner.icon equals icon.text. I apologize if my probably poor singing was a bother. We need to show that dialog, and then we need to set icon.lext equal to this thing.file name. Okay. Cool. So we're almost we're getting pretty close to being done with this guy. I'm going to do a little bit of testing here. Enjoy some delicious water. I'm going to do a little bit of testing of the run program and standalone browser complex once I'm done, and with setting these things up. And then I'm going to move on to adding the final little feature, the little cherry on top that I don't know how much is going to be necessary, but I think it'll make certain things a little bit easier. It's just going to be a mass task add to a category off of the context menu, where you'll get basically a text box, and you fill it in, and each line gets turned into a new task. So I thought that adding that would be A, fairly easy to do, and B, would allow for kind of mass entries, which I think would be useful. So add URL is going to need to do a couple things. So the first one is make a text box. Box.tag is going to equal URL holder. Ooh, that actually becomes a little bit messy. I'll deal with it. Dot controls dot count. Box dot key down. I'll deal with in a moment. Box dot text changed. I'll deal with in a moment. Box dot text should equal URL, and then URL holder dot controls dot add box, and of course box dot what's the word for this? Width equals URL holder dot client size dot width. We'll see if that works. If it doesn't work well, we'll deal with it. But okay. So if this text changes, well, first of all, we need text box off of this guy, and then we need int index equals int box.tag owner dot URLs index equals box.text. That's pretty straightforward. What's not as straightforward is right here we need text box equals text box sender. Okay, so this is where things become a little bit more complicated. So I need to go owner.urls.remove at box dot okay, so I need to grab the index. In index, just gonna copy this. Let's see, I think these are the only. So I need to grab the index, and then if box.text.length is equal to 0, then we remove at index because we're getting rid of it. That's what this is meant. And then else we don't do anything. It's just like, okay, cool. But if there is no text in it, we remove at the index, and then we need to go for each. So for int I equals 0, I is less than owner.urls.count. Text box actually, instead of this, I'm gonna do URL holder dot controls dot count, and then URL holder dot controls I dot tag equals I. So we just make sure update tags, just so that way things don't explode weirdly when we remove this. Okay, so first we need to remove that. Then we actually do need to go URL holder dot controls dot remove at index as well. Actually, let's just remove box. Should be the same diff, but yeah, remove at index. So that should make that go poof, and then we update tags. So I think that should do it. I think that should do what we want. Now the question is, does it? It's obviously fairly complicated. We kind of knew that was going to be the case going in. Let's go ahead and just add a new task to extra more testing. And let's go ahead and I'll test that one on my own later, but we want to test this guy right now. So you can see that this gets like some crazy thing. I'm just going to call this Bing. Add URL. Okay, so that's obviously a little too wide, which I'm not surprised by because this is being put in a little bit. So I'm going to like subtract 6 or something from it, something like that. If I hit enter, it goes away, which is good. So let's just try issue. Oh, I know what the problem is. Okay, so there's a couple of things that we need to fix right away that we can see. The first one is that this thing is just straight up too wide. So let's just subtract like 6 from it and see if that fixes it. The like the best way to actually do this would be to would be to add it and then minus 2 times box dot left, like that. Now this had a problem because this needs to go if e dot ecode equal to keys dot enter, or rather does not equal that, return. Yeah, this is only supposed to happen when we enter, not when we start typing. So that's why that exploded. Let's just add to extra tester. Okay. Complex, add Bing, add URL, Bing, or https://www.bing.com. Then if I add another URL and then I enter, it goes away, which is exactly what we want it to do. And we're just going to add a second, like so. And then let's go ahead and add a run program. Not a run program advanced, but just a run program. Just type CMD in there. So now when I click this, it should bring up the standalone browser with 2 Bing tabs, as it did. It's telling me to use Microsoft Edge. You'll notice that the icon is that, and it has the name Bing up there as we expected it to. Now there is actually a little bit of functionality that I can do with this to kind of nice things up. And this, as you can see, brought up the command prompt as we would expect. So we'll just quit the command prompt. So just to show you a little bit about this, I can actually go pipe bing1, pipe bing2, and then when I click this, it should bring it up, and bing1 is that, and bing2 is that. So that's just a little bit of functionality specific to the standalone browser that if you don't know about, you can't make use of. The other thing that I want to test is if I come in here and I go to the first one and I do that, I should just get the Bing2 tab. And of course, there is no multiple tabs, so it just brings up Bing. But when I go back in here, just checking, yep. So that looks like it's working, which is really cool. CMD worked just fine. So it looks like the extra stuff that we added, sans the more complicated ones, work. So that's really cool. Now I just want to go in here and I want to add a new one called Add Tasks. So we're going to go ahead and do that and be really happy about a lot of our functionality here. So I'm particularly happy about realizing I could just use enter on an empty thing to clear it out. Okay. So for this, I'm going to need to add, not there, over here, a Windows form. And this is going to be add multiple tasks. Yep, that's what that's going to do. And this is just going to, I'll leave it kind of like that way, but add multiple tasks. This is going to be very, very straightforward. Excuse me. I need a text box. Multi-line. Task names. Doc. Yes. And then I kind of want to add a tooltip to this, if that's something that I can do, but I'll have to look in the code. Okay. So this is going to just have a, let's see. Can I? No, it doesn't have tooltip. That's okay. So all I want is task names dot e down and I actually want to go up here alt plus enter when done, just to let you know how to actually work this thing. So if e dot keycode is equal to keys dot enter and e dot modifiers is equal to keys dot is it still keys? Yeah. The alt modifier key, then close. And then this is going to just have a public string contents equals or get return task names dot text. Okay, so that's all that this is actually going to need to do. Now we just need to go to category view. I think it's this guy. Category node context menu. Yes, this one. I'm going to add tasks. This one's not going to have a thing to hold down to get it, but when you click it, it's going to make a add multiple tasks, AMT equals new, amt.show dialog. Whoop, that's not how we do things. And then string amt dot no string task names equals amt dot contents. Oh, what? Yes, amt.contents.split. So this is a really useful function that lets us split a string, as you might notice. New string array environment.newLine, because that's what we want to split on. And then string split options.remove empty entries. So we want to remove empty entries. So if task names dot length is greater than 0, so if there's stuff in here, then what we want to do, and this is our long send-off episode, remember? So I hope you enjoy ending this one on a gigantic one. Yeah. Okay. For each string task name in task names. Okay. So now what we need is we need to do the functionality to add a task. Which I believe is just like using that. There's the I just want to double check. Okay, so I basically just do okay, so I'm going to just grab this right here. Because this is going to do like part of what I want to do. So I'm going to just take it and I'm going to butcher it. So I'm going to grab our category. I'm going to grab this code. Because these are the things that I need. Actually, I'm going to do this in here because we don't care until that point. Okay, and this is just going to be task name, single. And that's all that that's going to need to do. So let's just test this guy out. Grab task names. If we have some, then add them. Okay. So let's go ahead and test this. Let's just go. Let's add a category to here first, called test add multiple. We're just going to come here. We're going to add tasks, and let's just enlarge this window. Let's just call this 1, 2, 3, 4. Alt Enter. And now we have tasks 1, 2, 3, and 4 that have been added to this. So that works. That's really cool, isn't it? There's like one thing that I want to do left, and that's just to make that window by default a little bit bigger. But that's gonna wrap it for us, folks. We have this program done now. So I don't know like what sort of fancy send-off to give it, or I can't think of any particular fancy send-off to give it. I can't think of anything else that I want to add. This was kind of the last idea that I had. So I will poke at some of the other things that I want to test on my own time. And like I said, if there's any notable changes, I'll go ahead and add them in the description below. I don't really anticipate much, but if I want to add like a major thing, I'll make a video on it. But if it's just a minor tweak, like, oh, this is a bug that I need to fix, I'll just try to remember to include it in the description below. So until the next program, isn't that exciting? Until the next program, everyone, take care. Bye-bye.